A hidden wonder in the woods. The Jones family were seasoned adventurers, finding joy and connection in the natural world. For years, their weekends were filled with hikes, campfires, and exploring the dense forests near their hometown. To them, the outdoors was more than an escape. It was a place of bonding and discovery, a realm where every trail held secrets and every glade promised tranquility. One crisp spring morning, they decided to venture farther than they had ever gone before, nearly 100 miles from home. The air was alive with the scents of pine and damp earth, and the symphony of birdsong greeted them as they arrived at the edge of a sprawling forest. With their camping gear in tow, they set up camp beneath a canopy of towering trees. The sunlight filtered through the leaves in golden patches, casting an almost magical glow over their temporary home. Their youngest, Justin, a curious and lively 10-year-old, had a spark in his eyes as he wandered around, marveling at the sights and sounds of the unfamiliar terrain. "Stay close, Justin," his mother called, though she knew her words would be forgotten the moment his imagination took hold. After lunch, armed with a small basket and the promise of a surprise, Justin ventured deeper into the woods to search for mushrooms. He moved slowly, careful to examine every rock and patch of moss, his excitement growing with every small find. Then, through a thicket of bushes, something caught his eye. A flash of rusted metal. Curiosity piqued, Justin pushed through the undergrowth and stumbled upon a sight that made his heart race. An old, abandoned truck, its once vibrant paint now peeling and faded, blending with the earthy tones of the forest. Vines curled around its tires, and moss had claimed its hood, as if nature itself had been trying to hide this relic from the world. Justin's first instinct was to call for his parents, but he realized how far he had wandered. "Mom, Dad," he yelled, his voice echoing through the trees. No reply. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The thought of spending the night alone in the dark woods filled him with dread. Despite his fear, Justin decided to explore the truck. Its creaky door groaned as he opened it, revealing a musty interior frozen in time. Dust swirled in the dim light as Justin peered inside. The seats were torn, and the dashboard was cracked, but something on the floor caught his attention. A wooden box, its surface etched with intricate carvings. His hands trembling, Justin lifted the box. It was heavy, and on its lid, an inscription read, "If found, deliver to the address below. May 7, 1995. Davis Vincent." Justin's pulse quickened. He hesitated to open it, but curiosity won. Inside, he found an astonishing treasure. Medals, gleaming gemstones, and gold bars nestled together like forgotten memories of a long-lost story. Suddenly, he heard a distant voice, his father's call. Relief washed over him as he quickly carried the box and ran toward the sound, eager to share his discovery. A family's choice. Back at camp, Justin's family listened in awe as he recounted his tale, his words tumbling over each other in excitement. When they opened the box, their astonishment matched his. The sheer value of the items was overwhelming. But Justin's father, Tom, immediately pointed to the address etched into the lid. "We have to return this," Tom said firmly. Justin's mother, Emily, nodded in agreement. "It's the right thing to do." Justin beamed at their approval. "I want to give it back. Whoever it belongs to must have been looking for it." The family spent the evening speculating about the story behind the box, their imaginations weaving tales of hidden wealth, lost treasures, and forgotten lives. But one thing was certain: they would deliver it to its rightful owner. The next morning, Justin and Tom set out for the address. After driving for nearly an hour, they arrived at an old, weathered house nestled at the edge of a small, quiet town. Its shutters hung crooked, and the garden was overgrown, but there was a warmth to it, a sense of history and resilience. When they knocked on the door, it was answered by an elderly woman with kind eyes and a shawl draped over her shoulders. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. Tom held out the box. "We found this in the woods and saw your address on it. We thought it might belong to you." The woman's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes brimming with tears. "Oh my, I can't believe it. Please, come in." A story of loss and legacy. Inside, the woman introduced herself as Linda Vincent and explained the box's significance. Decades ago, her husband, Jack, had inherited the box from his grandfather, who had buried it in the forest to protect it from being stolen. When Jack went to retrieve it, tragedy struck. "We searched for him for days," Linda said, her voice trembling. "The authorities found his body along the roadside. They said his car must have broken down, and he got lost trying to find help. We never found the box. Until now." As she opened the box and sifted through its contents, Linda's tears flowed freely. She clutched the medals and photographs, whispering, "Jack, I miss you so much." Linda insisted that the family keep the gold and gemstones. "I have no one else to share this with," she said. "You've given me back something far more valuable, memories of my husband." The Joneses initially refused, but eventually agreed after Linda's heartfelt pleas. A new chapter for Linda. As they drove home, Justin couldn't shake the image of Linda's house, its peeling paint and sagging porch a stark contrast to her gracious spirit. "Dad," he said, "can we use the money to fix her house? It doesn't look safe." Tom smiled at his son. "That's a wonderful idea. Let's make it happen." Over the following months, the Jones family worked tirelessly to renovate Linda's home. They replaced the roof, painted the walls, and even planted a garden in honor of her late husband. Linda was overwhelmed by their kindness, and soon she became part of their family, joining them for holidays and hikes. The rest of the gold was donated to charities, helping others in need and spreading the spirit of generosity that had brought them all together. The ripple effect of kindness. Through a chance discovery in the woods, Justin and his family learned a profound lesson. Doing the right thing, even when no one is watching, can lead to unexpected blessings. Linda gained a new family, and the Joneses found a deeper sense of purpose. Their story became a reminder that kindness and integrity can transform lives, creating ripples of hope and love in a world that often forgets the power of simple good deeds. And so, the forest held not just the echoes of Justin's discovery, but the legacy of a family's choice to make a difference, a legacy that would inspire others for generations to come. The weight of the right choice. As the Jones family huddled around the flickering campfire, Justin carefully placed the wooden box on the ground in front of them. The flames cast a warm glow over its carved surface, making the intricate etchings shimmer like whispers of a story long forgotten. The weight of the box wasn't just physical. It carried an undeniable sense of importance that seemed to anchor the moment in silence. Tom, Justin's father, was the first to break the stillness. "This box didn't end up in the woods by accident," he said, his tone serious but curious. "Someone went through a lot of trouble to hide it, and we need to figure out why." Emily, his mother, glanced at the address engraved on the lid. "There's no doubt about it. It was meant to be found. But this isn't ours. It belongs to someone else." Justin, sitting cross-legged and staring intently at the box, chimed in. "I want to return it. It's the right thing to do. Imagine how they must feel, not knowing where it is." Tom smiled, pride evident in his expression. "That's a good heart you've got there, son. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it." They spent the next hour inspecting the box's contents. Each item felt like a piece of a larger puzzle. Medals, perhaps from a soldier who had fought valiantly, gleaming gemstones that sparkled like captured starlight, and gold bars, small yet impossibly heavy, their weight a silent testament to their value. Whoever this belonged to must have been someone remarkable, Emily mused, holding up a tarnished medal and brushing off the dirt with her fingers. Or someone desperate to protect what mattered most, Tom added thoughtfully. Justin's eyes widened as a thought struck him. What if they're still looking for it? What if it's been lost all this time, and they never gave up hope? The family exchanged glances, their collective resolve solidifying. This wasn't just about returning a box of valuables. It was about restoring a piece of someone's life, honoring the trust they had placed in whoever might find it. As the stars began to emerge, Justin and his family decided they would set out for the address first thing in the morning. The fire crackled softly, its warmth wrapping around them like a promise of brighter things to come. But as the night wore on, Justin lay awake in his sleeping bag, staring up at the canopy of stars. His thoughts swirled with wonder and anticipation. What kind of person had hidden the box? What story lay behind its contents? And most importantly, how would they react when it was finally returned? Though he was just a young boy, Justin felt the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. He wasn't just delivering a box. He was carrying someone's legacy, someone's dreams. It was a responsibility that filled him with equal parts excitement and determination. Little did he know, the decision to return that box would set into motion events that would change not just one life, but many. A story unearthed. The next morning, the Joneses set off, their small SUV rumbling down winding country roads lined with ancient oaks and blooming wildflowers. Justin held the box tightly in his lap, as though its history and significance might slip away if he let it out of his grasp. The address etched into its lid was barely legible, but Tom had mapped it out the previous night. After an hour of driving, they'd arrived at their destination, a weathered old house at the end of a gravel driveway. The home stood like a sentinel of another era, its peeling paint and sagging porch whispering tales of time's relentless passage. A swing hung lopsided from a creaking beam, and the flower beds were overrun with weeds. Yet there was a strange beauty to it, a sense of resilience beneath the layers of neglect. Justin's heart thumped in his chest as he and Tom approached the front door. Emily and Justin's siblings stayed in the car, their faces pressed to the windows in anticipation. Tom knocked gently, the sound echoing through the quiet morning. After a moment, the door opened, revealing an elderly woman with kind but tired eyes. She clutched a woolen shawl around her shoulders, her frail frame swaying slightly as she regarded them with a mix of curiosity and caution. "Yes," she said, her voice soft and hoarse, as though it hadn't been used much lately. Tom took a step forward, holding the box out in both hands. "Ma'am, we found this in the woods, and your address was on it. We thought it might belong to you or someone in your family." The woman's breath caught, and her hands flew to her mouth. Her eyes, clouded with age, filled with tears that spilled freely down her wrinkled cheeks. "Oh my," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, come in." Inside, the house was as time-worn as its exterior, but it held a warmth that spoke of love and memories. Framed photos lined the walls, sepia-toned portraits of stoic men and smiling women, images of a life lived in full. A faint scent of lavender lingered in the air, mingling with the aroma of old wood and distant rain. The woman, who introduced herself as Linda Vincent, motioned for them to sit as she carefully placed the box on the coffee table. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid, revealing its contents. For a moment, she simply stared, her lips moving silently as if in prayer. Finally, she spoke. "This box belonged to my husband, Jack. It's been missing for so many years. I never thought I'd see it again." Justin leaned forward, his eyes wide. "What happened to it?" he asked, his voice soft but eager. Linda took a deep breath, her gaze drifting to one of the photos on the wall, a black and white image of a young man in military uniform. Jack's grandfather buried this box in the forest decades ago to keep it safe. He didn't trust banks, and he didn't trust his own son, who had a habit of squandering money. He told Jack where it was before he passed, and Jack was determined to retrieve it. "It was 25 years ago," she continued, her voice trembling. "Jack left to find the box. He was so excited, so sure it would change our lives. But he never came home." Linda paused, wiping her tears with the edge of her shawl. "The authorities found his body days later. They said his car must have broken down, and he got lost trying to find help. He froze to death on the side of the road. We searched the woods for weeks, but we never found the truck. And without the truck, the box, it was just gone. The room fell silent as Linda's story sank in. Justin's heart ached for her, for the loss and longing that still lived in her voice. I thought it was all gone forever, Linda said, her hands tracing the medals in the box. But here it is. Jack's medals, his treasures, his dreams. Tom placed a hand on her shoulder. We're so sorry for your loss, Mrs. Vincent. We didn't mean to stir up painful memories, but we thought it was important that you have this back. Linda smiled through her tears, her gaze fixed on the box. You didn't stir up pain. You've brought me closure. After all these years, I finally have a piece of Jack back. Thank you. As she continued to sort through the items, Linda insisted that the Jones family keep the gold and gemstones. I have no need for them, she said firmly. I only want the medals and photographs. They're the only pieces of Jack I have left. At first, the Joneses refused, unwilling to accept such a generous gift. But Linda was adamant, her frail hands clasping Tom's as she pleaded. Please, let me do this. You've given me something priceless. Let me repay you in some way. Eventually, they agreed, but only with a plan already forming in Tom's mind. One that would honor Linda's generosity in a way she could never expect. As the family drove home, the box now lighter but no less significant, Justin stared out the window, his thoughts racing. Dad, he said suddenly, Linda's house looks so old. It's falling apart. Do you think we could use the money to help fix it? Tom glanced at his son, his heart swelling with pride. That's exactly what I was thinking, buddy. Let's make it happen. The rest of the drive was filled with excited plans, a family united by a shared purpose. They had returned a lost treasure, but in doing so, they had found something even greater, a chance to make a real difference in someone's life. Unbeknownst to them, their kindness would soon ripple outward, touching more lives than they could have ever imagined. Building bridges and renewing hope. The decision to help Linda Vincent rebuild her life ignited a spark in the Jones family, transforming the excitement of their discovery into a shared mission. They began by returning to her home a few days later, this time with not just a plan but a promise. Linda was surprised when she opened the door to find the entire Jones family standing on her porch, their arms full of paint samples, blueprints, and cheerful smiles. "What is all this?" she asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and confusion. Justin stepped forward, holding a small potted flower he had picked out himself. "We want to help fix your house," he said earnestly. "It's the least we can do after what you've been through." Linda's eyes filled with tears, and she looked at the family with disbelief. "Oh, you've already done so much. I can't ask for anything more." "You're not asking," Emily interjected gently. "We want to do this for you. It's a way for us to honor the kindness you've shown, and to make sure Jack's story lives on in more than just memories." Linda hesitated for a moment, then smiled, a small, hesitant smile that grew into something radiant. "Well," she said, her voice trembling, "if it means that much to you, I suppose I can't say no. Thank you, truly." What began as a simple gesture quickly evolved into a community effort. Word of the Jones family's project spread through the small town like wildfire. Neighbors who hadn't spoken to Linda in years showed up with tools, supplies, and willing hands. Volunteers painted walls, repaired the roof, and rebuilt the crumbling porch. Tom coordinated the logistics, working late into the night to ensure everything went smoothly. Emily handled the interior design, blending modern comforts with touches of Linda's past, ensuring the house felt both renewed and familiar. Justin became Linda's personal assistant, helping her sort through old belongings, salvaging what could be cherished, and finding creative ways to honor her memories. As the work progressed, the once-forgotten house began to transform. The peeling paint was replaced with a cheerful blue, and the sagging porch now stood sturdy and proud. The overgrown garden became a vibrant patch of flowers and vegetables, with a small stone path winding through it, a tribute to Jack's love of nature, as Linda had shared with Justin one afternoon. Through it all, Linda's gratitude was boundless. She baked cookies for the volunteers, shared stories about Jack and their life together, and even found herself laughing more often than she had in years. For the first time since her husband's passing, the weight of loneliness began to lift, replaced by the warmth of community and the bonds of newfound friendship. A gift that keeps giving. As the final coat of paint dried and the last nail was hammered into place, the Jones family stood with Linda on her newly restored porch, surveying the house that now stood as a beacon of hope. "It's beautiful," Linda said, her voice thick with emotion. "More beautiful than I ever imagined it could be again. I don't know how to thank you." Justin grinned up at her. "You already did. You gave us the chance to do something good." The family wasn't finished yet. The gold and gemstones Linda had insisted they keep were more than enough to cover the renovations, but there was still plenty left over. With Linda's blessing, they decided to use the remaining money to support local charities, helping families in need and funding projects that would benefit the entire community. One of those charities was a local veterans organization, a nod to Jack's military service and the medals that Linda now proudly displayed in her living room. Another donation funded scholarships for underprivileged children, ensuring that the legacy of kindness would continue to touch lives for generations. A new chapter. As the months passed, the bond between Linda and the Jones family deepened. She became a regular fixture at their gatherings, her laughter and stories brightening every holiday and birthday celebration. She taught Justin how to bake her famous apple pie, and he, in turn, shared his dreams of becoming an explorer, inspired by the treasure they had found together. One sunny afternoon, Linda sat with Justin on her porch swing, the two of them watching the garden bloom. "You know," she said, her voice soft, "when I first lost Jack, I thought I'd never feel whole again. This house felt like a tomb, and I felt like a ghost. But you and your family, you brought life back into this place, into me." Justin looked up at her, his young face full of sincerity. "You gave us something special too, Linda. You taught us that doing the right thing always matters, no matter how small or big it seems, and you gave us a chance to help someone who deserved it." Linda smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "You've got a good heart, Justin. Never lose that." The ripple of kindness. In the years that followed, the story of the Jones family and Linda Vincent became a legend in the small town, a reminder of the power of doing the right thing. The house stood as a symbol of resilience, kindness, and community, a testament to the idea that even the smallest acts of goodness can grow into something extraordinary. For Justin, the experience shaped his future. He carried the lessons of that treasure box with him, always seeking ways to help others and make the world a little brighter. And though the box itself now sat on a shelf in Linda's home, its true treasure was the legacy of love and generosity it had unearthed. And so, from an old truck hidden in the woods to a house filled with laughter and life, the story of a little boy and a chance discovery became a beacon of hope, a story that proved kindness, above all else, has the power to change the world. The legacy of a treasure returned. The seasons passed, and Linda Vincent's house stood as a shining example of what compassion and community could achieve. Its bright blue exterior, thriving garden, and welcoming porch had become a local landmark, affectionately nicknamed the Miracle House by the townspeople. Yet the story didn't end with the house or even with the Jones family's act of kindness. The treasure box, though emptied of its tangible wealth, continued to inspire ripples of change that reached far beyond anyone's expectations. One quiet evening, Linda sat at her kitchen table, the box open before her. Its contents now included only Jack's medals, a few precious photographs, and a bundle of letters she'd written to him over the years. She carefully added another item, a handwritten note on fine stationery. It read, "To whoever finds this box in the future, may it guide you to make a difference, as it has guided those before you." She closed the lid with a resolute nod and called Justin. The boy arrived minutes later, his face alight with curiosity. "What's up, Linda?" he asked, plopping down at the table. "I've been thinking," she began, sliding the box toward him. "This box has already changed my life and yours, but I believe its story isn't finished yet. I want it to keep inspiring people. Will you help me?" Justin's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Linda's smile was warm but mysterious. "We're going to create something meaningful, something that honors Jack's memory and the kindness your family showed me. An idea takes root." The next day, Linda, Justin, and the Jones family gathered in her living room, brainstorming ideas for how the box could serve as a force for good. After hours of discussion, they landed on a plan. The box would become the centerpiece of a community initiative called the Jack Vincent Legacy Project. The project's mission was simple but profound: to fund acts of kindness and provide assistance to those in need, with the box as a symbol of the generosity that started it all. The initiative would encourage individuals and families to nominate neighbors, friends, or strangers who could use a helping hand, whether it was repairing a roof, covering medical bills, or simply ensuring a child had school supplies. Linda's savings, combined with the funds the Jones family had donated to local charities, became the seed money for the project. The town rallied around the idea, hosting bake sales, auctions, and donation drives to grow the fund. A movement is born. The first recipient of the Jack Vincent Legacy Project was a single mother named Clara, whose house had been damaged in a storm. With the project's support, her roof was repaired, and her children's bedrooms were repainted and refurnished. Clara's gratitude was boundless, and she insisted on paying the kindness forward, volunteering to help with the next project. From there, the initiative gained momentum. One month, it was a scholarship for a high school senior who dreamed of becoming a nurse. Another month, it was a new wheelchair for an elderly man who had struggled with mobility for years. Each act of kindness was accompanied by a small replica of the original box, engraved with the words, "Kindness, once given, never stops growing." Linda, despite her age, became the heart of the project. She attended every event, her presence a reminder of how a single act of honesty and generosity could ripple outward to touch countless lives. A boy's journey. For Justin, the project became more than a family endeavor. It became a calling. As he grew older, he took on a leadership role, organizing fundraisers and sharing the story of the box at schools and community centers. One evening, after a particularly successful event, Linda pulled Justin aside. Her hands, now more frail, gripped his firmly. "You've done something incredible, Justin," she said, her voice soft but full of pride. "You've turned a lost treasure into a gift for so many. Jack would have loved that." Justin smiled, blinking back tears. "I couldn't have done it without you, Linda. You believed in me." She chuckled, patting his hand. "And I always will. A legacy eternal." Years later, long after Linda had passed away, Justin stood on the same porch where the Jones family had first promised to restore her home. Now an adult, he gazed at the vibrant garden, which had only grown more lush and colorful with time. In his hands was the original box, its wood polished and its carvings lovingly restored. He carried it to the town's community center, where a plaque had been installed in Linda's honor. Beneath the plaque was a glass case, and inside it, the box would rest, a symbol of how kindness, when nurtured, could change lives in ways no one could predict. Standing before the case, Justin thought of that day in the woods when he had stumbled upon the rusted truck and its hidden treasure. What had started as a curious boy's adventure had grown into something far greater than he could have imagined, a movement that would continue to inspire for generations. The Jack Vincent Legacy Project thrived, its reach expanding to neighboring towns and beyond. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, carried the spirit of that first discovery, proving that treasures aren't just found, they are created. And so, the box's journey continued, not as a container of wealth, but as a vessel for hope, compassion, and the enduring power of doing the right thing. The ripple effect across generations. Years turned into decades, and the story of the Jack Vincent Legacy Project evolved into a cherished part of the town's identity. The original wooden box, now encased in glass at the community center, became a symbol of selflessness and a touchstone for those seeking hope. People from far and wide visited to see it, to hear its story, and to be reminded of the transformative power of kindness. But the real magic of the project lay not in the box itself, but in the ripple effects it created, effects that continued to spread, touching lives in ways no one could have anticipated. Justin's new chapter. By the time Justin reached adulthood, he had become a man of action, driven by the lessons he learned from his family, Linda, and the legacy of the box. After finishing college, he returned to the town, not to settle, but to expand the reach of the project. With the help of a dedicated team, Justin transformed the Jack Vincent Legacy Project from a local initiative into a nationwide organization. They launched programs that addressed critical needs: housing for the homeless, scholarships for underprivileged youth, and mental health services for veterans and their families. Justin's favorite part of his work was visiting the communities that benefited from the project. One such visit took him to a small town in the Midwest, where a single father named Alan had been struggling to make ends meet after losing his job. The project had stepped in to provide temporary housing and job training, and Justin wanted to meet him personally. Alan, standing in the doorway of his modest new home, held his young daughter in his arms as tears filled his eyes. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, his voice trembling. "You've given us a fresh start." Justin smiled, shaking Alan's hand. "You don't need to thank me. Just pay it forward when you can. That's what the project is all about." Alan nodded, his expression resolute. "I will. I promise." A global movement. As the Jack Vincent Legacy Project grew, it began to inspire similar initiatives across the globe. Stories of kindness multiplied like wildfire. A small village in India built a school funded by donations inspired by the project. A group of women in Kenya started a cooperative to empower local artisans. And in South America, a community planted thousands of trees in honor of the project's mission to give back to both people and the planet. The story of the wooden box became a universal symbol, its message transcending cultural and geographical boundaries. Schools began teaching its tale as part of their curriculum, using it to illustrate the importance of honesty, compassion, and community. In one small village in Japan, a teacher shared the story with her students, who were so moved that they organized a fundraiser to help rebuild a nearby town devastated by a typhoon. When their efforts were shared online, donations poured in from around the world, proving once again how one act of kindness could spark countless others. A letter from the past. One rainy evening, as Justin was sorting through old records at the project's headquarters, he stumbled upon a faded envelope tucked into a dusty file. The handwriting on the front was unmistakably Linda's. With a mixture of curiosity and nostalgia, he opened it and began to read. "Dear Justin, if you're reading this, it means the project has grown into something wonderful. I always knew it would. You have a way of inspiring people, just as you inspired me all those years ago. I wanted to leave you with one final thought. Never underestimate the power of one small decision. That day in the woods, you could have kept the box, hidden it away, and no one would have known. But you chose to do the right thing, and look at what has come of it. Remember this: every choice we make, no matter how small, has the potential to change the world. With all my love and gratitude, Linda." Justin folded the letter carefully, his throat tight with emotion. He placed it in the box's glass case the next day, alongside the medals and photographs, so others could read Linda's words and understand the depth of her wisdom. A full circle. Many years later, Justin, now a silver-haired man with lines of experience etched into his face, found himself back in the forest where it all began. The rusted old truck was long gone, reclaimed by nature, but the memory of that moment, the discovery of the box, was as vivid as ever. He stood among the trees, the sunlight filtering through the canopy, and closed his eyes. He thought of Linda, of his family, of all the lives that had been touched by the decision to do the right thing. A group of children on a school trip passed by, their teacher stopping to explain the significance of the forest. "This is where the Jack Vincent legacy began," she said. "A boy found a box here and chose to return it. That one act of kindness changed the world." Justin smiled to himself, his heart swelling with gratitude. He knew now, more than ever, that the story of the box wasn't just his. It belonged to everyone who had ever chosen compassion over greed, honesty over convenience, and love over indifference. As he walked back to his car, the echoes of laughter and discovery filling the air, Justin felt at peace. The legacy of the wooden box had outgrown him, and that was exactly how it was meant to be. For kindness, he realized, is the one treasure that never fades. It only grows. The treasure that lasts forever. Years after the Jack Vincent Legacy Project had blossomed into a worldwide movement, Justin reflected on everything that had unfolded since the day he discovered the wooden box in the woods. Sitting on the porch of his family home, he held a small replica of the original box, now a cherished keepsake that reminded him of where it all began. The world had changed because of one simple choice: to do the right thing. That decision, made by a curious boy, and supported by a family with open hearts, had grown into something far greater than they could have imagined. The medals, the photographs, and the treasures from the box were meaningful, but they paled in comparison to the true riches that had been uncovered. A community's kindness, a world's generosity, and countless lives forever changed. One quiet afternoon, Justin was asked to speak at a local school. Standing before a room filled with young, eager faces, he shared the story of the box, the truck, and the incredible journey that followed. As he finished, he looked out at the students and asked, "What do you think the most valuable treasure was in that box?" Hands shot up, with guesses ranging from the gold to the medals to the gemstones. Justin smiled and shook his head. "The most valuable treasure wasn't in the box," he said gently. "The real treasure was the opportunity to make a choice, an opportunity to do something kind, something honest, something good. That's a treasure we all have, every single day. It's not made of gold or jewels, but it's worth more than anything money can buy." The room fell silent as the students absorbed his words. "So my challenge to you is this," Justin continued, his voice steady and heartfelt. "When you're faced with a choice, whether it's big or small, remember the wooden box. Remember the power of doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. Because kindness, once given, grows in ways you can't even imagine." As Justin stepped down from the stage, the applause was thunderous. But it wasn't the sound that stayed with him. It was the light in those young eyes, the promise of a new generation inspired to choose kindness over greed, love over indifference, and hope over despair. Justin passed away peacefully years later, leaving behind a legacy not just of projects and donations, but of stories, lessons, and lives touched by the simple act of doing good. The wooden box remained on display at the community center, its carvings a silent testament to the idea that treasures are not what we hold in our hands, but what we share from our hearts. The lesson was clear and timeless. Our greatest wealth lies in the choices we make to uplift others, in the courage to act with integrity, and in the kindness we show to those around us. These are the treasures that never fade, never rust, and never lose their value. The world is full of hidden treasures waiting to be uncovered, Justin's story taught. But the greatest treasures are those we create through acts of love, compassion, and doing the right thing. Treasures that endure far beyond our time, lighting the way for generations to come. This concludes the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please consider liking the video and sharing it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day.